I've got my old friend Stabby here. You know what that means. It's time to open another box. What's up guys, Kyle here again, and today we are going to revisit the amplifier that made me hate Mesa amplifiers. Yeah, it'll work. Let's do it! Alright guys, hope you're doing great out there today. If this is your first time here at my channel, my name is Kyle, and what I do is I take awesome, high gain related guitar gear, record it with a simple setup, and I give you guys the unprocessed audio on your end. So if you're into E-standard thrash riffs, drop C hardcore riffs, and dudes who wasted 3 hours of their morning without even knowing how, you're in the right place. Consider hitting the like button and subscribing on your way out so you don't miss any more of my stuff. Thanks! Alright guys, so back when I got into gear around 2010, we should start a drinking game where you guys take a drink every time I say something like that, because I pretty much start all these videos out the same way. Oops. But anyways, I was on a very limited budget because I had a not so good job. I had just gotten home from tour and I just didn't have a lot of money. So once I got my 6505 Plus out of the way, that was kind of like my dream amp at the time. I was pretty happy with amplifiers for a little while, at least a year or so. And then all of a sudden I started realizing that a lot of people who were using, but one thing that I had really started noticing since I started paying attention to gear is that a lot of people were using the PV5150 6505 stuff, but almost the same amount of people were using Mesa rectifier amps. So naturally, I started to become interested in those amps. Number one, because they just look cool. I don't care if it's early 2000s or not. I don't care if it's new metal looking or not. I still love the Mesa tread plate look. Never really gets old to me, so that caught my attention right off the bat. But the more and more I started seeing bands playing these amps at the shows that my bands were playing, the more I started to get interested in them. So I finally started the hunt and I started checking Craigslist for those amplifiers, and turns out they were kind of expensive because the 6505 Plus that I had bought at the time, I bought the amp and two cabinets for $600. When I was looking at these dual rectifiers, they were selling for around $1,000 just for the amp. So immediately that kind of put the amp in unobtainable category for me. It was just more money than I was willing to spend on a single piece of gear, especially when I was starting to look at other amps like the PV Ultra series, the Jet City stuff. I mean, those amps, you could buy those things for like $200 to $300. And I was like, why spend $1,000 on one amp when I could buy 3 to 4 amps for that same $1,000 and start to experiment with other stuff? So that's what I did for a couple of years. I bought all the old PV amps that, so that's what I did for a couple of years. I bought all the older PV gear, any of the cheap amplifiers that popped up around $200, I would snatch them up and either keep them if I like them or sell them and move on to the next thing. So it took me all the way until 2015, the end of 2015, to finally track down a dual rectifier for myself. My band happened to be playing a show in Cleveland, and I went ahead and checked out Cleveland Craigslist, as I often do before I travel anywhere, a habit that has not seemed to have left me. And boom, there was a Mesa dual rectifier and it was for sale for $800. So I was like, wow, that's a pretty good deal since all the other ones that I'm seeing are around $1,000. I hit the dude up and started negotiating with him, and turns out he was looking for a guitar. He wanted an ESP LTD EC1000, which I just so happened to have. We ended up working out a trade for the EC1000 and $275, and that night I finally had made a Mesa dual rectifier my own. So I was literally so excited I couldn't sleep that night. The next day when I could finally plug it in and turn it on, I did so, and boy was I disappointed. The amp did not sound anything like I was expecting. It was big and fat, but not in a pleasing way. It didn't have a punchy low end. It was just kind of bloated sounding. It sounded real muddy when you cranked the gain. I was having a hard time working the EQ controls, and I just did not like it. I did not like it at all to begin with, and I never ended up liking it. I don't think that I kept it for very long, maybe 3 to 4 months, before I finally sold it. I ended up getting a triple rectifier in next, and I know I did not reveal exactly what rectifier model it was that I got for that first one, but I will reveal that to you in a minute. But I ended up getting a triple rectifier in next, and liked it a little bit better, but it kind of still seemed to suffer from most of the same issues that the first one that I had did. So, years go by, I end up going through a whole bunch of rectifiers from a whole bunch of different series, and just not really liking any of them for the longest time. Now, you guys know that that is not currently the case though. When I started my YouTube channel, I talked about how I didn't like rectifiers and how they were disappointing amps for me, but maybe 2 to 3 months into my channel, I kind of finally figured them out after 5 years of messing with them, 5 years of trying them out, and now they have actually become one of my favorite amplifiers. They are probably pretty much right up there underneath the PV5150 and the Splon Quick Rod as, you know, one of my top 5 favorite amps, if you guys can believe that. I really do love the rectifiers now. So with that being said, I have slowly been going back over the last couple of years and trying out different models that I had owned previously and basically kind of falling in love with rectifiers, not all over again because I didn't like them in the first place, but falling in love with rectifiers, all the individual models, getting to know them now that I could finally figured out how to get them to sound the way that I want them to sound. But the one model that has kind of eluded me for that time that I've tried to get my hands on, but the prices have just gone absolutely crazy over the last couple of years, well, I finally tracked one back down again. So today we are gonna revisit the first rectifier amp that I ever owned, the amp that made me hate Mesa rectifiers and Mesa amps in general, and we're gonna see if I've changed my mind. So without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and unbox it. But as always in these unboxing videos, I wanna see what model you guys think that it is because there are a ton of dual rectifier models out there. So I'm curious to see which one you guys think it is that was the first one that I owned and the one that made me hate rectifiers. Put it down below in the comments now while I unbox this thing. The world's shortest power cable. Wrapped it in like green plastic wrap. That's a first. The hell out of here. All right, this thing is wrapped up tight, so tight with that plastic wrap I can't even get under the handle. All right guys, let's start the unwrapping process. All right, so I have no interest in saving this plastic wrap, so we're gonna Hulk this stuff. Ugh. Have you figured it out yet? I like that. He left the tubes in and he put packing in between them. That's the way that I do it, and that's probably the way that you should do it too. A lot of times when people pull the tubes out and box them individually, they don't do it right in the first place, and then they end up getting smashed in the box, or the box ends up getting smashed and smashing the tubes. All right guys, so this guy has perpetrated the first cardinal sin of Mesa amps in that he did not use Mesa power tubes in the amp, so I'm gonna have to send it back to him. Just kidding, but have you guys ever noticed that Mesa dudes are really weird about that? Like 99% of Mesa guys have to have Mesa tubes in the amp. Before you angrily type comments, I know that Mesa codes their tubes to work in their amps, but believe it or not, if you reach out to tube retailers, they also know what amp should go into a Mesa tube. What tube should go into a Mesa amp? All right, anyways, you guys are probably sick of me, so before you click off of this video, here it is. It is the Mesa Dual Rectifier Tremoverb. So yeah, guys, this was the first Mesa amp that I ever owned. It was the first rectifier amp that I ever tried, and it was the amp that pretty much made me despise Mesa amplifiers in general. That, you know, took me years and years to kind of slowly work out of that stigma, out of that mindset. And now that I love rectifiers, I really want to try this amp again. Back when I was buying and selling these amps, they were going for, you know, $900,000, $1,100 sometimes if you were really lucky, if you had a really clean one. Now they sell for $1,800 all day long. So gotta give a huge shout out to my man Deadpool25, aka Kevin. He's an old regular over at the 7string.org forum, which is a forum that I frequent often, but I found this on Facebook Marketplace. Funny enough, hit him up, and yeah, we made a deal, and here it is. So Kevin, thank you for using an entire roll of saran wrap on the amp. Now, it wouldn't be a belligerent amateur unboxing if we didn't plug this in, so I've got a cab sitting behind me. Let's hear how this thing sounds. And I'm gonna do the thing where I lift the amp up even though it's extremely heavy. And almost drop it, apparently. All right, guys, so we have the Mesa Tremoverb hooked up to Old Faithful here. This is my 2005 Mesa Rectifier oversized cab. This is the oldest piece of gear that I own, meaning it's been with me the longest. I had this cab the last time I had one of these heads back in 2015. So we're gonna revisit the amp through the same cab. I've got my Balaguer Typhon here. We are using the Deadwell Duality Boost to start. I have an SM57, but I also have a Royer 121 on the Vintage 30 just to mix things up a little bit, and I've recently discovered that those two microphones sound insane together. So with that being said, I'm gonna flip it on. I've got kind of like my Mesa rectifier standard controls, the way that I dial in 2-channel rectifiers going. We are on the orange channel. Let's see if it sounds any good. Okay, this thing sounds way better than I remember it sounding. Oh my God. It is like extremely tight in the low end with that boost. It's so tight and so punchy. I remember it being so fat and gross sounding. I must have really not known what I was doing back then, because this sounds incredible. Dude, okay, I am so happy that I bought this amp. This thing sounds so good to me right now. I don't know how it sounds on your guys' end, but I can't believe I made this thing sound bad. This thing sounds so good. Super punchy on the low end, super tight. Yeah, let's try the blue side of the Duality, and let's see if we can kind of get like a TC integrated pre thing going on. Okay, so less mids with that boost. Let's bump that output all the way and really slam the front end of this amp. That's even tighter. It's even tighter, even more saturated. Let's bump up the bass and the mids just a tad. Oh, I really, really like that. A little bit more low end. This amp is not leaving my possession ever again. This thing sounds so good. Let's try drop C. Let's try a riff from my band that I was playing in at the time. I still play in, but we don't do anything anymore. Represent a straight edge hardcore band that plays in drop C, and let's see if I can get this thing to sound better than I could back then. Spoiler alert, I think it's gonna be easy to do that. It does that no problem. I do feel like the way that we have it set up, it's a little bit kind of lacking in the upper mid aggression. Let's kick that boost off and I've got the treble at 0 thing going on. Let's actually put the treble back up to around noon. Let's try another overdrive that I absolutely love on these amps. This is Electric Eye Mud Killer. All right, sounds cool. I never really mess with the red channel on these older rectifiers, but we're gonna go ahead and do that. That's like new metal in a channel right there. Super not good sounding in my opinion. Really woofy on the low end and not a lot of mids. Let's do the treble at 0 trick again. Immediately liking that better. Let's bump those mids up. All right, I would like a little bit more top end presence, but overall the mids are really aggressive the way that we have them dialed in. Low end is really punchy. I feel like that's the more quintessential 90s, early 2000s rectifier tone for sure on that channel. Not my thing. Last but not least though, let's hit it with a 7-string. I don't really know what I'm doing with this thing yet, but that sounds really mean. It does not sound loose at all. We have more gain with the EMGs, so let's pull the gain back a little bit. All right, I feel like we could use maybe just a tad more gain, and let's not cut quite so much low end from the pedal. All right, the way we have it set up, it's super tight, it's fairly articulate, it still has that Mesa low-mid grunt thing going on. I'm actually having fun on a 7-string. What the hell is going on? This is 7-string and a rectifier are two things that I didn't think that I would be enjoying in my personal life on my channel, but here we are. So that's gonna wrap up this video for today. I'll do a full amp demo in my normal style at this thing at some point. I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it's gonna stay with me. So with that being said, thanks again to Kevin, AKA Deadpool25 over at Solid State, 7-string, some sort of forum.org. He gave me an excellent deal on this amplifier, and yeah, I'm really psyched right now. Thanks again, man. If you guys enjoyed the video, hit the like button and subscribe if you're not already. If you really want to help the channel, go down in the description and check out my affiliate links with Sweetwater and Zounds, as clicking on those help more than literally anything else that you could do, and I really appreciate the support. Or you could put your name on this amazing list of people and join my Patreon community and support the channel. That way, I'll love you forever, whether you want me to or not. Let me know what you think about this amp down in the comments. If you own one, if you've played one, the tones that you thought that I got out of it today, you thought that I got out of it, the tones that I got out of it today, what you thought about those. And as always, guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching the video. Kyle here again. We'll see you next time. You know what this wall is missing? Another amp. There we go.